In the past century, the Indian wild ass was found all over the dry regions of northwestern India and western Pakistan, Jaisalmer, Bikaner, Sindh and Balochistan. Today, it is found only in the Little Run, and a few stray towards the Great Run of Kutch. To avoid human activity resulting in hindrance of movement, the loss of habitat, and threat to the breeding site of asses, covering about 5,000 square kilometers of area and spread in Patan, Surendranagar, Rajkot and Kutch district, Little Run of Kutch has been notified by the state government as protected zone under the Wildlife Protection Act. But do you know, this region holds tremendous importance in the life of millions of Indians because of yet another reason, the edible salt. The area accounts for a staggering 40% of India's total salt production. There are close to 10 to 12,000 families or over 40,000 salt pan workers in the area who have been producing salt for the nation since the last 300 to 400 years. With this notification, the activity is no more legitimate. So next time you're enjoying your meal, watch out. You might be part of something illegal. The question is, who survives? Man or the wild? Since the period of Mughals, generations of Agariyas have been earning a living making salt in the barren wastelands of the Little Run. The past days were better, if not glorious. The rights over the land were legitimized by farmans issued by the emperors. Even when the country was under the British rule, Agariyas were far better off.
બ્રિટિશરોએ ખારાગોડાની બાજુમાં 1 કિલોમીટર દૂર પીવાના પાણીનું તળાવ બનાવ્યું અને ત્યાંથી અંડરગ્રાઉન્ડ પાઇપલાઇન નાખી અને દર 50 મીટરે એક કુંડી બનાવી અને કુંડીમાં ગ્રેવિટી ફોર્સથી પાણી વહાવતા હતા અને રણનો મીઠું પકાવવાના અગરિયાનો દરેક વિસ્તાર એ કવર કરી અને મફત પીવાનું પાણી પહોંચતું કરતા હતા.
Kharaghoda was connected by a broad gauge line, and the railway link extended into the Little Run. The essay might have been trifling, but unarguably the social construction cared for them in the past. After the independence, they stand dejected, lamenting over their own fate. The question is why? Was it just the animal-human conflict as is known to most of us? Was it just a price they had to pay for the sake of majestic wild asses? Or there were other less obvious forces behind it? The Minimum Wage Act in India pegs the daily wage at about ₹100. But is there a legitimate way out for escalating profits? Let's try and find out.
જે આપણે સરકાર તરફથી જે 100 રૂપિયા હાજરી નક્કી કરવામાં આવેલી હોય તો આપણે પ્લાન્ટની અંદર જઈએ તો 45 રૂપિયા હાજરી આપતા હોય.
નક્કી કરેલો ભાવ છે. કોણે નક્કી કરેલો છે? એસોસિએશનમાં છે. કેટલી મજૂરી મળે છે? 50 રૂપિયા.
50 रुपया है.
50 रुपया. और कितनी होनी चाहिए?
100 रुपया होनी.
એમાં એવું છે કે તમામ મીઠાનું ઉત્પાદન પીસ રેટથી થાય છે, જેને ગુજરાતીમાં ઉચ્ચક ભાવથી કહેવાય કે તમે 1 કિલો મીઠું પકવી આપો તો તમને આટલા પૈસા. જનરલી 1 કિલો મીઠાના 10 પૈસાથી 14 પૈસા સુધીની ગ્રોસ કિંમત ચૂકવવામાં આવે છે.
No one can question the traders and businesses on the minimum wages or the extremely low procurement rates after the activity is no more legal. Since the state is a welfare state, the responsibility of ensuring minimum humane living in such extreme inhuman conditions lies on the government.
પાટામાં ખાધું ના ખાધું એવું કામ મહેનત કારી મજૂરી કરી બરોબર તો છતાં પહેરવા લુગડું રહેતું નથી.
Providing sanitation, education, medical facilities, drinking water and other basic amenities in such a region would be no less than a nightmare for the government. Not only this policy frees government of the gigantic effort, but also relieves the mounting pressure from the more positively constructed and powerful players in the society, the corporate and the environmentalists. The other side of the page is literally blank. The Agariyas never had a say in the society, but the greater good rendered their image as undeserving participants in the social setup. In 2006, a notification was passed asking Agarias to vacate the place. Since 2006, the dynamics are getting more and more complex. The pitiable conditions of the salt pan workers forced many NGOs to fight for their cause. Several unanswered questions have been posed before the policymakers. Let's look to the arguments which were never raised before the notification was passed. One of the strongest and most controversial being that the population of wild asses, which was a mere 362 in 1969, have multiplied more than 10-folds and reached about 4,000 at present. If there was any human-animal conflict, then why the asses aren't extinct yet? How is their number increasing despite salt cultivation in the region? We posed this question before Mr. Pradeep Khanna, Principal Chief Conservator of Forests, Gujarat Forest Department, who refused to come before the camera. His stand was that the number could have grown to 40,000 rather than just 4,000 had there been restriction on the human activity in the region. Let's dig a little deeper.
से ही जो वहाँ बस रहे हैं, जो सदियों से बस रहे हैं, उन्हीं के साथ मिलकर इस समस्या का समाधान ढूंढा जा सकता है। घुड़खर को भय है, ये भय इन लोगों से तो पैदा नहीं हुआ है, क्योंकि अगर इनसे भय पैदा हुआ होता तो ये घुड़खर का अस्तित्व सैकड़ों साल पहले ही खत्म हो गया होता जब नमक बनने की शुरुआत हुई थी। ऐसा तो हुआ नहीं है। तो इसीलिए इतिहास गवाह है कि इन लोगों और घुड़खर के बीच में कोई संघर्ष, आपसी कोई संघर्ष नहीं है और अस्तित्व के लिए दोनों जो हैं वो प्रतिस्पर्धी नहीं।
The government authority argued that the legal owners would be properly rehabilitated and hence there would be no issues whatsoever. Surprisingly, this land of immense geological importance has never been surveyed since independence and is known as India's Survey Number 0. Hence, about 85% of the Agaria community does not have any legal claims over their lands.
यानी 35 साल बाद आप एक नोटिफिकेशन इश्यू करने के 35 साल बाद आप उस इलाके का सर्वे सेटलमेंट करो, उसके बाद में उनके पास स्टाफ नहीं है। वो जो बंदा वहां पर बैठा है वो रेवेन्यू का है। अगर वो फॉरेस्ट का कोई बंदा होता तो वो लोगों को भी समझता और वाइल्ड लाइफ को भी समझता। ये रेवेन्यू वाला तो सर्वे सेटलमेंट जो करेगा वो डॉक्यूमेंट्री एविडेंस के आधार पर करेगा कि गांव के जमीन लैंड रिकॉर्ड में इनके बारे में क्या कहा गया है, यही देखेगा। जबकि ये इस इलाके में ये पीस ऑफ लैंड का कोई रिकॉर्ड सरकार के कोई ऑफिस के पास नहीं है। तो आपने ये सर्वे सेटलमेंट किस आधार पे किया, कौन से रिकॉर्ड के आधार पे किया? ये पूरा जो प्रक्रिया है वो पूरा एब इनिशियो ये फॉल्टी है।
As per Agaria Hitrakshak Sangh, there exists a vicious cycle that makes the association with the place totally indispensable for the workers. The workers are in deep debts of the salt traders that force them to be bonded laborers for them, and the same is continuing for generations. Also, detailed documents issued by Aurangzeb from the medieval times are available, confirming rights of these people, and the question is, if the state never bothered to survey this area, why the existing documents are not being accepted as a legitimate proof? Further, while the government has stopped renewing the limited number of licenses held by Agarias, the same isn't true for the corporate players holding large tracts of land whose licenses are being renewed regularly. The salt being produced by these dejected people is illegal, while that of the big players is totally legal. Why? How the salt produced in the run of Kutch is illegal and the trading of the same salt in the nearby districts made legal? To this, the competent authority said it was outside his purview. Continuing with the list of unanswered questions, consider this. India is the third largest producer of salt in the world, and some 5 million tons of its annual production of 17 million tons is exported. The salt from the Little Run accounts for almost 40% of this. Once the Agarias producing salt at the cheapest rate in the world are displaced, what plans does the government have to compensate for this? The answer is none.
How hard is the implementation of this policy? Immense. Was the policy framed in a way that was never going to benefit the endangered species? Was it just for relieving other players of the burden of the salt pan workers' welfare? Because of the efforts of various organizations, balance of arguments seems shifting again in favor of the Agarias. Many NGOs working for the protection of the wild asses, like Dhrangadhar Prakriti Mandal, have also accepted that the unrestricted movement of vehicles and large-scale salt production by commercial players is causing much more harm. Will the place of Agarias change in social construction? It's yet to be seen. Lastly, the government might pat its own back for increase in the number of assets. We believe the policy formation was too narrow-focused and is adding a negative value to the society.
કે એક હાથમાં ઘાસ છે અને એક હાથમાં રોટલો છે, બરાબર? જો આ રોટલો જો એ ખસરને ખવડાવી દેશો તો કીધું ઘાસ અમારાથી ખવાશે નહીં. ખસરને ધૂળખંડને એનું ઘાસ આપો અને અમને અમારો રોટલો આપો.